the true story of the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the man who led the team who invented the nuclear bomb. Every time a biopic comes out about a famous person or a band or a musician, they all pretty much play out the same way. It starts in childhood, where you get to see the person before they became famous. You see the thing that they do that makes them famous, and finally, as the credits roll, you see the "Where Are They Now?" showing where all of the characters in the film ended up. Each biopic is basically just a greatest hits version of someone's life. But when Christopher Nolan does a biopic, he does not follow the rules. We didn't see any of Oppenheimer's childhood, and we didn't get the "Where Are They Now?" at the end of the film. We get 3 hours of the meat of Oppenheimer's life. Now, when I was 15 years old, I took world history class, and I loved it. I got an A and found the class to be pretty easy. So the next year, I decided I would take U.S. History Advanced Placement, because if world history was easy, then U.S. history would be even easier, because we're only studying one country, and that country is only 250 years old. I could not have been more wrong. The amount of minutia we had to study was so unreal. I think I read every letter that every founding father ever wrote. I ended up dropping the class halfway through the year because it was just too much. What I'm saying is a typical Hollywood biopic is my world history class, and Oppenheimer is my U.S. History Advanced Placement class. It is packed from beginning to end with dense conversations, complex relationships, and more characters than ever need to be in a single movie. Now, everyone wants to work with Christopher Nolan, and I'm saying this because in this movie you have 4 Best Actor Academy Award winners in the film, and they're all just small bit parts. The amount of cameos in this are absolutely wild. Now, Nolan is incapable of telling a story in chronological order. The movie jumps in time between 3 different time periods, or more, I think it was 3, and there is never any obvious on-screen indication of what year it is in. So keeping straight who knows what information in which scene is kind of tough. Now, that may sound like a complaint, but it actually works in this scenario. Because things bounce around, you really have to concentrate to make it so you understand what's going on. You cannot just casually watch this movie in the background while you do other things. I probably shouldn't have said there are no indicators of the time period, because there are, but they're just not as obvious, like in the Netflix show Mindhunter, where the current city is plastered on the screen laughably large. In Oppenheimer, some scenes are in black and white, which signifies that they go together, and you can tell by the age of some of the characters roughly when it takes place. Now, Oppenheimer is a name I've heard my entire life, but I never knew what he did. I must have dropped out of my U.S. history class before we got to his contributions to the world. At the beginning of this film, he looks out of a window, and he sees Albert Einstein looking out over a pond. And the character says, "I can introduce you if you'd like." And Oppenheimer responds, now, and I'm paraphrasing here, "I already know him. I don't need to see him. He doesn't believe in my theories. He's an idiot." Now, he doesn't actually call Einstein an idiot, but he implies it, and that is our cue that not only is Oppenheimer smart, he is so smart that he calls the man synonymous with being smart an idiot. It reminds me of that scene from The Princess Bride where Vizzini says, "You ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates? Morons!" Cillian Murphy is great as J. Robert Oppenheimer. He is a complex man, and you can read that complexity in his intense eyes. Now, as I was watching this, I could not believe how much was conveyed through his eyes. The extreme close-ups on the IMAX screen made those eyes just bleed right through me. But then Rami Malek shows up randomly and has even more intense eyes, so much so that I actually laughed out loud in the theater when this happened. Nolan made this film's narrative more complex than it needed to be by telling the story out of order, and he compounded the difficulty of making the movie by insisting that it was shot on 70mm IMAX film, which less than 50 theaters in the entire world can actually project. And the film had to be custom made because there was no 70mm IMAX black and white film stock that had ever existed. The actual film weighs 600 pounds and is more than 11 miles long. It's not really a convenient way to get your story out into the world. Now, most movies are shot on film and then digitized and edited on computers once filming is completed. Nolan edited Oppenheimer the old analog way. Every shot in the film was done in camera. There is no CGI. There was no reason to do this other than to flex and prove that he can make one of the most compelling and visually stunning films of the year and do it without computers. The showing I saw was just in regular old digital IMAX, not the 70mm IMAX. And I still have to say it is one of the clearest, if not the clearest movie I've ever seen. There was no pixelization anywhere. Everything looked crystal clear, like looking out of a window. Now, I'm not sure that Nolan handicapping himself with his IMAX only no CGI parameters was worth it, but I definitely noticed and appreciated it. Oppenheimer is a dense intense movie, and I was never 100% sure I was following the story completely, which probably means when I watch it again, I'm going to pick up on a whole lot of stuff that I missed. But I also never felt completely lost, and I was engaged for the entire 3-hour runtime. The scene where they test the bomb is probably the most tense I can ever remember being in a theater. Now, Alfred Hitchcock says that a bomb exploding makes it an action movie. A bomb under a table ticking makes it a suspense movie. Well, Nolan did both of those things at the same time. He showed several smaller bombs going off, and we saw the flash of the bomb before we heard the explosion, because light travels faster than sound. So by the time that the big bomb went off, we anticipated a delay in the sound, and that anticipation of the sound wave hitting had the entire theater on edge. So Christopher Nolan was able to show us the bomb going off and give us the anticipation of the bomb going off at the same time. Now, Oppenheimer is by far the loudest movie I have ever seen in a theater, followed by Dunkirk, another Christopher Nolan movie that I am convinced was probably as loud as the actual world war that it was portraying. Now, in Oppenheimer, people were holding their ears during some parts, and the bomb going off, that wasn't even the loudest scene. Oppenheimer is a masterpiece of filmmaking. Nolan is like a fine watchmaker. Every shot is beautiful, and the edits and the dialogue march to a very precise clock. You can just feel his technical mastery. The score elevates the dialogue and emotions to levels unexpected. The acting is full of a laundry list of the best in the business, with a surprise performance by Robert Downey Jr. that is sure to win him some awards. The suspense and sheer power of the explosions is worth the price of admission. The last hour after the bomb goes off feels like it drags just a little bit, but I'm not sure what I would have cut out. Now, if you have any interest in the creation of that nuclear bomb, or you just want to see a movie by the undisputed technical master, Oppenheimer is a must-see movie. Intense eyes, smoking a pipe while in deep contemplation, admitting to infidelities with your wife sitting behind you, teaching a class with only one student, watching a bomb go off wearing welding glasses, overdoing it with the sunscreen,